Welcome. In front of me I have the Nubia Z60S Pro, and I will go over unboxing along with a quick look at the device and also its specifications. So anyway, I just pop it straight open. Okay, so it's putting up. So right here we can see if the camera can actually focus. Come on, camera. There we go. So right here you can see that it is max 80 watts. So it's actually a very good charger that comes provided with the device. And also we get the cable right here, which will be Type-C to Type-C. And anything else in here? Nope. So that's it. So just moving that all to the side, we get a pretty decent package right here. So we get a nice phone. I will have to be honest, looking at the photos of this device, it looked much worse than what I have in hand. This feels really nice. The display right here is a 6.7-inch display with a resolution of 1260 by 2800. It's an AMOLED display, 120 Hz refresh rate, and a peak brightness of 1200 nits, which means that it gets pretty bright. And you can already kind of see the camera, at least the way it's set up right now, it's almost peaking. And this is just kind of like the setup screen, so I can make it even brighter. You can also see that we have a very minimal bezels all around. And this puts the device at 89.7% screen-to-body ratio and a pixel density of 452 pixels per inch, covered with a Lengxi glass. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this, but yeah, that's about it for the display. Now, if we flip it over to the back, we have what looks to be a quad camera setup, surprisingly. Or maybe triple camera setup. This doesn't actually look like a camera, to be honest. So let's see. We have a 50 megapixel f1.6 aperture 32mm standard lens, whatever that is supposed to be, 8 megapixel f2.4 80mm telephoto, and 50 megapixel f2.0 13mm 123 degree ultra wide lens. And with those cameras you can record videos up to 8K at 30 frames, and 4K allows you to do up to 60 along with 120 slow motion. And then at the front we have a selfie camera, which is just a 16 megapixel sensor, wide one, and allows you to do 1080p at 30. So there we go. Now internally the device is also no slouch. We have a 5100 mAh battery, so pretty decent battery size right here. 80 watts of charging speed with the provided charger too. That is really good. And depending on which model you go for, as there are several different variants in terms of RAM and storage, we can go anywhere from the lowest point at 256 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM up to 1 terabyte of storage and 24 whopping gigabytes of RAM, which is just an absolute overkill for an Android phone. In all cases, you get UFS 4.0 storage type, meaning that it's going to be pretty snappy, which is important when you're going to be recording videos at, for instance, 8K 30 frames. Now, when it comes into the build quality, we have aluminum frame, we have what looks to be glass back, though I am going to make sure. never mind, it's not listed right here, but I think it is also a glass back right here. We have a color-coded little button right here with some texture to it, which might not be not be able to actually see it on camera. Volume rockers right above that, and a switch for what I presume will be things like silent and vibrate modes and stuff like that, with a subtle haptic vibration to it whenever you switch it. On the other side we get absolutely nothing, and at the bottom we have our speakers, our charging port, microphone, and next to that our tray. Popping that out, you can see this device only takes 2 SIM cards. There is no expandable storage on this device, but considering you can spec it up to 1 terabyte of storage, it probably isn't such a bad thing. Now, one thing that you will also probably see is that there's no headphone jack. Typically, Nubias do actually include headphone jacks on most of their devices. This one is lacking it, but at the very top, we do have a infrared light right there to allow you to control things like, for instance, AC units, TV boxes, and so on. So anything that has a typical remote control that isn't Bluetooth connected, you can control that appliance with this phone, assuming you go to the setup. And obviously we also got a case in here. Probably not a very good color choice of a case when you went with like the very dark color of the phone itself, as it just kind of I would say conflicts with it, but the lighter one, as there is several color options for this device. We have the black, aqua, and white. Probably white one would look best with this kind of case. Yeah, the black one looks a bit odd with this much paler now case on it. And you can see this is more like a bumper. It protects the top and bottom, while these sides are fully open, and it looks like it does have a tiny little bezel around the camera to prevent it from scratching when you're placing the phone on the table. Another thing here that I want to point out, the device has a relatively symmetrical design, so the camera is smack in the middle of it, which does give you a bit more stability of the device when it's laying down. It won't be just like wobbling around, for instance, like actually I don't have any phone around here to showcase this, but it's pretty decent. It does have this little loop right here, which I think protrudes a little bit too much. Without it, yeah, without it it's a bit better. So when you're just tapping on a phone, when you put some pressure, it does kind of like tilt. You can kind of see. But for typical like touching, it's not wobbling all that much, which is, in my opinion, pretty good, as I absolutely despise when phones are just kind of wobbling when you're trying to use them on a table. So there we go. One last thing to mention will be the price of this device, and this is a Nubia device and or Nubia phone, and their price is pretty reasonable almost always. So this device comes with a price tag of about 670 euros, which already includes tax. Now, there is one thing that I didn't mention right here for this price, and that is the processor that you get inside, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. And that device has been released some time ago. I am a bit late to it. So it was released August, so about like half a year ago almost. So at that time, I believe when this device was releasing, this processor was already outdated. But again, you're basically paying nearly half the price that you would get to pay for some other devices like Samsung's. And what you get here with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is still a fantastic device with a fantastic processor in terms of speed and performance. These were obviously flagship grade processors, the highest end that you can get for Android. And since then, I believe there's only one or two. I think it might be we might be having now Snapdragon 8 Ultra or whatever it's called right now. So they dropped that Gen kind of crap. It got to, I think, Gen 3, and now it's Ultras, I believe. Which again, why keep it consistent when you can just confuse the living out of people by switching the naming schemes every couple of years? I can't fathom why companies can't just stick with one naming scheme. And this is not a rag on ZTE Nubia. This is more for Snapdragon and Qualcomm. So yeah, there we go. One last thing that I want to mention is I told you the price, but that price was at release date. This device is already half a year old, and like I mentioned also, there has been new processors that came out since then, so chances are you might actually pick up this device at a better price than even 670 euros now, which obviously makes it a very good device. And also wanted to add that there is a newer, well, technically newer version of this device. So this is the Z60S, and there's also the Z60 Ultra, which I guess would be the higher end version of it. Now we have, I think, the Z70 as well, which has just a bit more spec'd out everything with a just a Z60 Ultra instead of this one being the, I believe it was, what was it, Pro? Yeah, the Z60S Pro. So if you go with a model higher, you get basically the same thing that you have right here with just a better cameras and even a newer generation of the Snapdragon being the Gen 3 instead of 2, and a bigger battery, if that is something that interests you. But in any case, this still seems like a fantastic device. Now, with that out of the way, hopefully you found this very helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.